Never a dull moment in politics. What a week. The breakdown starts now.
Yes.
Welcome to the breakdown. I am Tara Setmayer. This is the Rick Wilson, and we are here with you tonight to talk a little primary results because it's been pretty interesting the last 48 hours. A lot has gone on since Tuesday.
Yes.
But first, we want to talk about Alex Jones. I'm sure that by now many of you have heard that Alex Jones is on trial for defamation because of his despicable behavior and comments about Sandy Hook and that massacre and what he has done to those poor families over the last decade. And they have sued the shit out of him. And it looks
like... That's a technical legal term.
Indeed it is, because as everyone knows that we just play lawyers on TV.
Yes.
We get to use terms like that. They are suing the shit out of him for $150 million. And a verdict came in today after he took the stand, and it's been a wild trial. This guy is the scum of the earth. And the verdict came in this evening right before we came in live on the show, and he's I think it's compensatory right now, up to $5 million roughly.
4.1 on compensatory, and apparently with the formula they use, he could be looking at a $40 million plus tab on top of that for the punitive damages. And I just want to say, I think it's still not quite enough.
No, I know. It could never
I want Alex Jones living in a cardboard box under a highway overpass, drinking Sterno squeezed through a sock. But, you know.
Yes, you and me both on that.
That's why I'm not a judge.
Yeah, no shit. In this instance, yeah, there is no impartiality. No. I think that he is a despicable scumbag human being that I hope they bankrupt him to hell, because that's where he belongs. And I said as much on MSNBC earlier today when I was on with Michael Steele. Who
I noticed you did not spare the rod on that one.
I did not.
You were right on the point there.
Well, how can you? You know what I'm saying? What this guy did to these families, it's bad enough that they lost their child.
Right.
And then to have to endure this level of harassment from him and his insane
weirdo
followers,
his weirdo army of incel minions,
right? For all these years, they couldn't even mourn the tragic loss of their children properly because of that. Some of them had to move 10, 11, 12 times, threats to their lives because he ran around telling people it was fake and it was crisis actors. Fuck this guy. And so like I said on MSNBC, it's the world's tiniest violin right now playing for Alex Jones.
You know, I tried to order Schadenfreude this afternoon on Amazon Prime, and they are fresh out.
Right, no doubt. So, but the interesting thing about that, not only just the Alex Jones part of this, him just being a horrible human being, is there's a January 6th component to this as well.
Oh, a delicious one.
Yes, indeed. And while I really didn't want to waste too much of my time or brain cells on Alex Jones this week, but what piqued my interest not only was to see him suffer, but was the fact that his attorneys mistakenly sent the entire contents of his phone to the plaintiff's attorneys. 2 years worth of information on this guy's phone. So he got caught lying multiple times, and about all kinds of things. From how much he was worth to, he's trying to file for bankruptcy to get away with having to pay these families. Shocker. But now the January 6th committee was like, excuse us. Yeah, we'd like to see those as well. And we all know that Alex Jones and InfoWars and his group of minions out there were involved in the Stop the Steal stuff, the rally beforehand. Your buddy Ali Alexander, who you like to talk about all the time, was in cahoots with them, and they were talking about potential violence. And so what role did Alex Jones play in stoking the violence of this whole thing and financing it, and what did he know when and how much? And so we're about to
we're going to find communications on his phone with Roger Stone, Steve Bannon, most likely Mark Meadows and other people in the White House. It's going to be, as I called it last night, it's a Rosetta Stone of the MAGA demi-monde. This is going to peel back a layer of understanding how these people were communicating that day, what they were doing. This is one of the crowning ironies, is you've got a guy on trial for being a colossal, epic dirtbag a-hole to the families of these shooting victims. But the bonus is not only that he's going to have to pay a lot of money to the families, but also because his clown show strip mall lawyers messed up, that the 1-6 committee and the DOJ are going to get access to communications that would otherwise they would have fought tooth and nail to prevent them from finding out. This couldn't be more fitting or joyous if I wrote the script myself.
I know. Couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
If I may quote a word that Alex Jones occasionally uses, and folks, if you ever want to see the best Alex Jones clip, in my opinion, it's not the gay frogs, it's the fish people.
What?
And this scenario is a word that Alex Jones uses in that clip where he says, the whole story is fantastical. Fantastical. It is fantastical. This guy, his lawyers screwed the pooch so hard they ought to get married. It is unbelievable what they did. It has blown a giant hole once again into the whole scumbag conspiracy orbit of all these people around Trump. Yep. And especially, like I said, Stone and Bannon and Akbar and Charlie Kirk and all the rest of these people. It is astounding. I would like our producers to find the fish people clip if they can, because it would make for some very delicious light LPTV viewing, just to put you in perspective on who this guy is.
Yeah, I think that Merriam-Webster has now found a picture to go next to what a suck cocker looks like. If you haven't seen the show from Tuesday, please go back and watch the first.
If you haven't seen the show from Tuesday,
minutes, then you'll know what the reference is. Yeah, this guy's the worst. So, moving on from that, let's talk about some good things going on. There were some good results from the primaries on Tuesday night.
Quite a few.
Yes, encouraging. Besides the crazies who won, we'll get to those in a second. But what happened out in Kansas was pretty remarkable concerning the ballot initiative concerning abortion.
Yep.
And Republicans thought that they were going to put this on the ballot during a primary and a midterm year when most people don't pay attention. Voter participation is historically low during not only midterm elections, but during primaries in midterm elections. Excuse me. And it's usually only the most dedicated people who participate and pay attention. So they were counting on that. So they put this abortion initiative on the ballot, and then Dobbs happened, and it woke a lot of people up across the board, not just Democrats, not just progressives and liberals, but it woke a lot of people up, independents and Republicans alike, because they say, wait, hold on. Before, all this talk about abortion was notional, but now we have to actually face the consequences of what this means when you take a right away.
Correct.
So in Kansas, they had double the turnout for primary voting this past Tuesday, and they voted down taking away the right to abortion in Kansas. And they did it in a very unique way. They never used the term abortion. The way that they messaged this was more about women's rights, which I think was a smart thing to do.
It was also, frankly, the messaging was in a very conservative frame.
Yes.
Weirdly, I think there's an organization that does this.
Right.
But what they were saying, things like, I don't want big government violating my rights and my privacy and my home. I mean, that was brilliantly framed. I think the ads were very, very well done.
Yes.
And I think it gets down to something. You know, somebody asked me one time to summarize, the sort of broad position I've had in my ideology after leaving the Republican Party. It's like, I want government to stay out of my bank account and out of my bedroom. Other than that, go do your thing.
Right.
People should be maximally free to do what they want among other consenting adults. But this idea that Kansas had this initiative and they thought there was a political utility to it, I think it's going to send a ripple through a lot of states, because look, a lot of states, and I heard this morning, that already in Florida, the legislative leadership is telling their members, your full ban bills, they're dead. They're gone. We don't want them. DeSantis doesn't want them. Don't file them. I think you're going to see a lot of these states that we're going to go for total bans, pull back a little bit, because remember, what's remarkable here, folks, is not that a pro-choice coalition of Republicans, Democrats, and independents came together. It's remarkable this coalition happened in the numbers it did, in the state of Kansas. And by which I mean the Northwest Frontier province of Kansas, which I mean Kansastan. It is a very, 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 very conservative state, full of people who are also, I guess the word is conservative. This is not Massachusetts. This is not California or
Right, it's
Washington.
not New Jersey.
Or New Jersey.
Right, or New
This
York
is
even.
Kansas.
Where Republicans, by the way, outnumber registered Democrats by 2 to 1.
By a billion.
2 to 1.
And the important thing, Tara, and I keep going back to this with folks I've been talking to today, the dog caught the car.
Right.
The Republicans got their wish, and their wish has been part of 3 or 4 major threads that have all come together at once, and it's dropped the Republican voting intention down. They were well ahead before. Now they are somewhat behind, and in some places more behind than others. But what's happening here is, and there's a theory of the case that on major issues like abortion, the side that overshoots loses politically. And if you don't think Dobbs was an overshoot in the minds of American voters culturally, you're missing the point, folks. And it also ignores the reality that about 20 to 25% of Republican women are pro-choice, and about 11 to 18% of Republican men are pro-choice, and the numbers are slightly larger among independent men and women.
Right. And we saw that. I mean, the fact that that was reflected in a state like Kansas, that, you know, that is as red as it is, I think is encouraging. And to see that because in order to ban abortion in the state, they had to amend the Constitution.
That's right.
Which is what this ballot initiative was about.
That's
and people were like, wait, hold on a second, pump your brakes. We're not trying to do all of that. We're not trying to do all of that. That's too much, which is, to your point, overshooting on the issue.
Right.
A lot of people believe in some restrictions. You know, it's safe, legal, and rare is what Bill Clinton said. And I think that's where most of America is on this. So when you start getting into outright bans where it's not even health of the mother or anything, people are like, no, that's way too much. And if something like this in Kansas can be successful, when enough people, I think it's an example of when the righteous anger, as I often say, when enough people, the righteous anger of the American people is put to good use, good things can happen. And so I think this is a step in the right direction and should be an example to voters in other states that you can put a stop to this, you know, extremism coming from Republicans if you get enough folks out to vote. So that's a great example of that. I mean,
that was a great media campaign, a great political campaign, and a great operational campaign to actually tag people up and get them out.
Yep. And I have to admit, I didn't know that was going on in Kansas, to be frank. I was not paying attention to what's happening in Kansas, and which is actually that's not necessarily a bad thing, because actually all politics is local, and you need to know what's going on in your home state. And the fact that that Kansas voters came out in double the numbers from the last primary,
right?
That's encouraging. That means they were doing what they were supposed to do in Kansas to impact what happens to their voters. Something else that's going on. We had a lot of election deniers that won primaries, which we're not surprised about, but should scare the hell out of everyone nonetheless.
There are some real
doozies,
chunky bits in this particular salad.
Yes. Oh, you know what though, Rick? Before we go to that, I do want to give credit to LP before we transition over to Arizona to put a point on the abortion discussion in Kansas. The LP creative department, you know, led by Michelle and wonderful Kate, our video editor extraordinaire, you guys put together this really powerful video in reference to what's happening concerning women's rights. And I would like to play that because I think that our audience should see it.
They want us to feel defeated. They tell us there's nothing we can do to stop a Republican wave. We proved them wrong. In one of the most conservative states in the country, voters, led by a quiet army of patriotic, determined women, said enough to radical Republicans invading our privacy, our bedrooms and bathrooms, and our liberties. They want us to be scared, but we won't back down. We will keep fighting. We will keep voting. And there's nothing more American than that.
Yeah.
Kansas.
Yes.
Kansas.
Yep. That's right.
And again, I think this really speaks to one last thing, and I'll get off this topic. The idea that we're going to have a country where there are people like Greg Abbott who put a snitch program in to report women, or that states are going to try to pass laws that say women can't cross state lines, or that a 10-year-old who is raped can't get medical care. The response to the American voters, and this is a focus group phrase, you've probably heard it before, go fuck yourself, is going to, I think, rise to the surface. I think this has really changed the electoral chemistry of 2022 in a way that people, I think they anticipated it, but I think Kansas last night may be something, and I do know that Republican consultants this morning were staring at their phones and saying, oh, crap, because a lot of this came out of red areas of that state.
That's right. That's right. So it wasn't just Democrats is the point. This is a cross-partisan issue. And this could be in certain swing states and districts could be the issue that changes things for Democrats. Because, right, the trajectory has been doom and gloom for Democrats. But when you have something this important, it can change voting behavior. And so we shall see. Now, on to some of the crazies. We had those primaries on Tuesday in Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona and Michigan. And we saw what happened with Peter Mayer, who lost his primary to a Trump wacko, unqualified person, as Gibbs, out there. And then, but you know what I have to say, Rick? I was trying to give Peter Mayer credit, right? He did the right thing and voted for impeachment against Trump. And he was saying all the right things about the importance of protecting democracy and X, Y, and Z. After he loses to this Trump lackey,
I know,
he turns around and supports him in the general. What the actual fuck?
You know what it is, Tara? You know what it is?
Cowards.
All these people, there are a lot of people in Washington, a lot of people we know, a lot of people who've come in and out of our lives. They are desperate to be put back in the matrix. They are desperate to go back to the old world where the Republican Party was respectable and decent. And guys, you have to understand something. Peter Mayer, I know he's independently wealthy, but he's never coming back to the party.
Right.
Even if he said, I'm a loyal Republican, I will do whatever, they're going to say, you voted to impeach Trump. You're out.
He's an apostate. It's over.
You will never be returned to the tribe. And this is a really shocking point for a lot of these guys where they don't get it until it's over. But you never get to open that door again. And you never get to go back there again. And why would you want to?
Right. That's my thing. Why would you want to go back to that? So was all of that bullshit? You were just saying it at the time until I don't know. You wonder why people get so discouraged with politics and politicians, because they're all a bunch of dishonest fuckers most of the time. But there are some good ones, thank God. But it's it's stuff like that. You just go, oh, come on, buddy.
It's really regrettable to watch somebody like that who does not have to bow to them. He doesn't have to bend the knee. He doesn't have to bow to them. Well, why he does it? But there's also this reflexive loyalty. They're like, I'm a Republican, therefore I must vote for the Republican. Guys, the Republican Party has been eaten from the inside out by a parasite called authoritarian Trumpism. The branding is the same, but it's not the same.
Right. That's right. It's the same name, but this is literally Republican in name only.
Yes.
Right.
Y'all the actual rhinos.
Literally. Right. They are actually the rhinos. It's quite remarkable. It's also quite remarkable is this QAnon kook Trump fembot out there in Arizona who is winning as of right now and still complaining and bitching that there was voter fraud. But won't tell us what it is. Carrie Lake is who I'm talking about.
Carrie Lake makes Sarah Palin look like she should be sitting around the Algonquin round table exchanging witticisms. This woman is wackadoodle-doo.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, but you're right about this. And I was talking about this earlier in our editorial call, that what's scary about people like her is that because she doesn't present as a kook, right? Like Alex Jones, you could just look at this guy and you can tell that he's off his rocker. And, Steve Bannon and his slovenly, unshaven, disgustingness. You just look at these people and you're just like, yeah, okay. But when they present well, she's a good looking, articulate woman who was a newscaster out in Arizona and speaks in very measured tones and very matter of fact.
I can't imagine why Trump endorsed her.
Right, exactly. Just like Tudor Dixon in Michigan.
Right.
But it almost inoculates them and desensitizes you from the crazy. This woman is batshit nuts, and the things that she's saying are so false. They're lies, and yet she is about to be the next nominee.
Well, she got ran into the wood chipper today when Vaughn Hilliard said, "Well, if you have evidence, why haven't you reported it?
Yeah,
why haven't you?"
And of course,
are you afraid of being, charged with perjury for lying to authorities?
Right.
And you could see the little wheels in her brain going, and she was not a happy camper. But then again, look, she got picked by Trump, as did Tudor Dixon, and she is well presented. She is smooth. She is slick. That doesn't mean she's not completely batshit crazy.
Right. Which she is. And she said that she was going to go supernova radioactive. That's what she told reporters, that she's not going to let them seal the election and all. This is all before. This is before she was winning.
That was my favorite part of election night. She's like, there's already fraud. We're seeing it everywhere. And then suddenly she wins and she's like, best election ever. Right. Good to go.
Then she had to keep it going, though. She's still saying this. Oh, well, we'll give it to the authorities, our proof. And okay. The same way that Donald Trump was going to show us all of the information his investigators got on Obama's birth certificate. We're still waiting on
how'd that work out?
Still waiting on that. I mean, these people are so full of shit. They have to keep the lie going.
But you have discovered, though, this week, like, the new criteria for a Trump endorsement. If it's a woman, she has to be the most attractive woman in the field.
Right. That's right.
And I, God.
Which is consistent.
I have selected you because my team has made a very careful political assessment of your skills and abilities. Right. And also, I don't know if you know this, but in this town, you have to give action to get action, if you know what I mean.
Oh, gross. I know. But
Donald Trump as Hollywood mogul in the 1940s.
Right. Oh, God. But she's not the only one in Arizona. And the reason we're zeroing in on this is because Arizona will be a swing state in 2024. We saw how close it was there in 2020. And it was because of local officials there that would not go along with the election lie, similar to Georgia, even though they tried, right? They tried. They brought in the cyber ninjas and everything else. And
cyber ninjas! Oh!
But now we have people who are running for governor, secretary of state, Senate, attorney general, that are all stop the steal, election denier lunatics, including Blake Masters, who we brought up.
Blood boy.
Night, who put out this ridiculous rap video, which was just obnoxiously horrible.
Never rap.
It's just the word. And he's going up against a true, respectable American hero astronaut in Mark Kelly, accomplished, legitimate accomplished guy, who is respectable and an astronaut, for God's sakes. Okay, is going up against this jerk off who is running around.
Peter Thiel's Blood Boy, and y'all, if you don't know what the Blood Boy joke is, watch Silicon Valley. You'll see what I mean. But Peter Thiel's Blood Boy, who is a part of this weirdo alt-right monarchist dipshit fringe,
un-American,
versus an astronaut and naval officer.
Right.
I got a feeling that Mark Kelly's actual record of service means something more, and I hope that Arizona voters understand that when they go to the polls, because you can choose essentially a figure who cared about his country and served his country. Or you can pick a guy who basically is going to represent, the address of Peter Thiel's hedge fund and nothing else.
And remember, Peter Thiel is also the one who is bankrolling J.D. Vance, another prize out there in Ohio. This is a bad dude. And
J.D. Vance is not recovered from our little visit.
I like to hear that. For those who don't know,
I'm the boss now, J.D.
For those who don't know who Blake Masters is, and you're like, who is this guy you speak of? We gave him the Lincoln Project treatment.
He got the gift.
He got the treatment. Check it out.
What do you call someone always on the wrong side? Someone who has pledged to cut Social Security and Medicare, part of the Republican plan to raise taxes on tens of millions of middle-class Americans. Who believes America should have let the Nazis win? Someone who writes lovingly about a Nazi war criminal. That's Blake Masters. And there's one thing Arizona shouldn't call Blake Masters, and that's senator.
All real. Fact.
Fact. Sorry, Arizona, you've got a lot of people in this lunatic gumbo out there. Y'all need to keep an eye on it because it's going to get weirder, not less weird.
Right. And
the universe tends towards entropy and weirdness.
No shit. It's we have to call it out because this is no longer fringe. It's mainstream now. It's mainstream.
Right. That is the Republican Party now.
Yes. Hello. And you know what else is the Republican Party? CPAC. CPAC is going on. Another one. Back when I used to go to CPAC, it used to be
right. We used to go to CPAC once a year.
Once a year in February. Now,
and that was like the mid-month CPAC, Race-a-palooza or whatever it is.
Right. And they've outsourced it now to Europe and the crazies in Europe like Orban, the dictator authoritarian there, dictator wannabe in Hungary.
He's pretty good at it.
Well, that's true. He did alter their constitution so he could stay
in power. Take over the media.
Yeah, took over the media there. He's a racist. He doesn't believe he made a comment about mixed race and how he doesn't want any of that in Hungary. Last time we heard a European leader talking that way, it was the 1930s and 40s.
Weird.
And that didn't end well for Germany.
History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes with a fat beat.
Yes, a little twist on Mark Twain there.
Yes, indeed.
I got you. CPAC is now CPAC 4.0 this year is happening in Dallas, Texas. And I talked about this earlier on MSNBC as well, and I didn't hold back about.
No, you didn't. You've been like smacking it today.
Well, it's been a week. My Teekster was been sick, and
how is Tiki doing?
He's getting better. I'm
happy very to glad report, to hear that.
I'm happy to report he is on the mend. I was going to bring him down so folks could see Tiki today, but he's sleeping comfortably, and I didn't want to disturb him. But trust me, he's doing better. And thank you to everyone who asked.
Just before I came on the air, Nameless decided that there was a pile of papers on the dining room table that were her mortal enemy and they must be attacked and destroyed.
Of course. Because that's what cats do, of course. What are these papers?
These papers must be destroyed.
Yes. But yes, thank you to everyone who's been asking about Tiki, and he's doing better.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
Back to these shitbags over there at CPAC in Dallas. So yes, so now they have Viktor Orban as the keynote speaker today, opening their hate fest there in Dallas. And Viktor Orban, Rick, you and I know this, and people who are watching who were Republicans or grew up in the Reagan era remember Republican foreign policy and are the principles of defending democracy and being on the right side of history and supporting our allies in democracy, and especially in Europe. What has happened to CPAC and what they have allowed to come in there is just despicable. The grift that the Schlaps and the rest of them
Let me tell you something. Whatever they're running now is not conservative. It may be political, but it's not conservative.
No.
And it is increasingly meant to be an authoritarian performance art exhibition.
Yep.
And look, you're going to have you have Orban there this week. You're going to have Trump, and the rest of these people are going to really outline for America what's coming next. And that's the great gift they give us, everyone. They always tell us what they're going to do. They always tell us what they're going to do every damn time.
Yeah, they do.
Pay attention. So pay attention in the coming week to what they say at CPAC, because it is a roadmap for the 2024 presidential election.
100%. This is the direction the Republican Party is going in. Some people, I was on NPR, I do Left, Right, and Center, it's this NPR show.
Sure.
And we had a conversation about this that I think it airs tomorrow. Like, are these the Republican Party? Are these people them, or are they the outliers?
Right.
And I was like, no, this is it. And the party is not recovering.
No.
You're not going to have the Dick Cheneys of the world and the Bushes and that Republican Party is dead, gone, buried, 6 feet under.
Even though I will say this, at age 80 or so, the old boss can still swing a lead pipe.
Oh,
and
well,
today he took the stick to Donald Trump.
He did. And I did say that I wish he had done that sooner, along with some of the other Republican luminaries who we still love and respect, like the Bushes. I wish they would have done that sooner, because I think that may have had an impact to embolden the other chicken shit leaders who didn't stand up to Trump, that they had a permission structure to stand up way earlier than now, like during the 2016 campaign. Or after a number of incidents with Trump, so that he could have been admonished properly, but they didn't. But I'm still glad to see that he's doing it now for Liz.
I'll take any example of strength.
Correct.
But
I agree.
But it doesn't change the ball game of who they really are.
No, but I want to show who Republicans are welcoming into their tent, because we have some clips. Shout out to the rapid response team who has to sit through these things, so you and I don't.
Right, you want a bleach shower after you watch these things. Oh
my God! Here's some clips from Hungary's dictator-in-chief Viktor Orban speaking at CPAC today.
Thank you, everybody. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, folks, we'll be releasing more clips from the CPAC stuff as over the next few hours.
Yes,
that's just a preview. Also, I think people in America, in the Republican Party as it is comprised today, they love transgressiveness. They love things that own the libs, that upset the normies, all those things. And Orban, I think, is in part a symptom of that in the CPAC community. They know that he's a terrible, weird racist with a anti-Semitic streak a mile wide, and they don't care about it one way or the other, but they like that it upsets everybody else.
Right? Yeah, that's the only.
They love that it owns the libs and pisses people off. That's what they love.
That's right. But I think they're playing with fire here, because they have unleashed an authoritarian monster into the mainstream of the Republican Party,
no doubt,
that they are not going to be able to control. They thought they were going to flirt with Trumpism with that. Oh, we'll control him. Look at what's happening.
There is no such thing, folks, as just the tip authoritarianism.
Right. Please write that book and let that be the title.
Just the tip.
There's no
field guide to modern authoritarianism.
There's no such thing.
And how things go terribly, terribly, terribly wrong.
You know what? On that note, Rick, we're going to.
I can't top that.
I can't top that. I mean, we can
top
try.
that.
We have one more clip. Again, I want to shout out our rapid response team, because they are the best. Since we're ending on a high funny note, Ted Cruz, who is of course one of our favorite subjects to pillory here, because he's just so easy to do. Because as Rick says, there's what would he say?
Two types of people in the world.
Two types of people in the world. That's
people who hate Ted Cruz and
everyone
Cruz.
else. Right. People who hate Ted Cruz and Ted Cruz. That's right. So here we have a little poking a little fun at him, because he did some theatrics like he's known to do, which usually backfire. He pulled it again, and we had to give it the Lincoln Project treatment. So check it out.
Violent extremist militia. Well, I will self-report right now that every day in the Senate I wear my boots that have the Gonzales battle flag on the back of them.
Let me tell you something, Heather. The only thing,
keep it together, Aviva.
The only thing that is artificial or fake about me. This. I'm sick of it. I am sick of you all accusing me. I'm not.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Ted Cruz at that. I mean, he clearly staged that thing so much. I'm just like,
Oh, he practiced it in front of his mirror.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you.
And he's
I
like
guarantee
erectile dysfunction Khrushchev with that boot. I mean, just come on.
Well, didn't he say he has a tattoo on his ass of Donald Trump or the American flag or some shit?
That's
So-
I have a Frederick Hayek back tattoo, but nobody gets to see that.
But that's not on your ass, and it's not Ted Cruz. So I'm hoping that the next stump is that he never shows us whatever he has allegedly tattooed
God,
on
no.
his ass. Please,
For the
save
love
us
of
from
God,
that.
no.
Right. On that note, we will see you guys next week.
See you, folks.
Have a great week, and keep the prayers coming for Tiki. Thanks, guys.